So fast forwarding from World War I to 1984, Wonder Woman battles both the Cheetah and an ambitious businessman and TV personality named Max Lord. The film, of course, stars Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, and Pedro Pascal. And if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the first films to be released both in theaters and on streaming on the same
Yep.
day. Like, I think this is the first move. This is a shot heard around the world in terms of that dual release.
Yeah, this was the first
So
movie.
overall, would
Yeah.
you? Yeah, this was the first one. Okay, just want to make sure I got that right. So what'd you think of this one exactly? Again, this is a 2.5-hour movie. Did you think that it was worth the time that you spent?
So here's the thing. I was looking forward to this movie. I was very excited.
Here we go. Here we go.
I love
Here we
Wonder
go.
Woman 1, and I was very looking forward to this. And so, I didn't have HBO Max, but I had some family members did. So we watched it, and the entire film, I was struggling with, why don't I love this? Why do I not like this movie? And then at the end,
And just before you go even further, I just got to cut in. We're going to do the non-spoilers first.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later down the road, we're going to do the spoilers. So, and of course, we'll give you guys a heads up as far as like when that spoiler session is going to happen.
like, if I had to say it in maybe a couple words, it's a wonderful mess.
Okay. All right.
That's what I will strongly say without giving into spoilers. And not only that, there's just certain parts of the film that... Wait, this was 2.5 hours?
Correct. 2.5
This
hours.
felt like 3.5. It felt way too long. And
it felt like 3.5.
yeah, it felt really long. And I was like, why is this so... And it's not... And again, I don't have a problem with films being long. It's just that I'm trying not to get into spoilers, but like there's...
No, like there are times when a movie feels slow. Like there's certain times when a movie's supposed to feel long. There are times when it's supposed to feel slow even.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, I don't think should have been one of those. Like I feel like with what this movie was trying to do and trying to say, it could have accomplished in about 2 hours. Like there was a point, like especially in like the first half of the film. Like the first half of the film was really slow, and I want to say like around the midway point, things do pick up. They really do pick up,
but not too much.
But honestly, I don't know. Like the climax towards the end, and as far as like how everything else and how everyone, especially the villains, are developed, I thought they did that well. I thought they did that really, really well. I found myself really engaged.
I like Cheetah was actually my favorite.
She was great. Kristen Wiig was awesome in this movie.
And it's funny because she was the one character I was afraid of going in. Mainly because I didn't see Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. But like what they were going for and seeing, and the thing is, again, one of my favorite parts of the film, I'm not going to spoil it, but just her overall arc. I like that a lot. Like I really...
her arc was terrific, and how Kristen Wiig pulls off her portraying her arc.
Yeah.
She did such a great job. Like going from like that socially awkward, I guess like nerd, like at the beginning of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like I watched it, like that first scene that she's in, I'm like, all right, she's perfect. She's awesome.
Yeah, she was great.
This is her thing. And then like as her character develops more and more, like as she turns like more towards the darker end of things, she pulled that off really well too.
Oh yeah.
So honestly, props to her. Like her and Pedro Pascal are easily my favorite performances in this film. So what'd you think of Pedro Pascal and Max Lord?
I thought he wasn't too bad. I liked him, just certain elements of what they were going for just didn't work for me because of like just, again, this movie, in my opinion, it's a mess. It's a mess on almost all fronts, in my opinion. And at certain moments, it was not necessarily hard for me to watch, but just like it felt like the Superman Returns of the DCEU. I'm sorry. But one of the things I do love about this film are the small moments, those tender moments, like in Wonder Woman 1 that Patty Jenkins does so expertly. Like she just really nails the human aspects of these characters, and especially of a character like Wonder Woman, who is a demigod. So those small moments, the moments with her and Trevor, those two have a dynamic like no other, and I love it.
Here's the thing: they usually would have a really good dynamic, and as far as like Wonder Woman's character, of course, Gal Gadot is awesome. She's Wonder Woman. She's Wonder Woman. She's terrific in the role. I love her. As far as like the character itself, like I was surprised that they were actually able to take the character itself in like a new direction. Like as far as like this
Yeah,
whole
like
lonely aspect to her life, like being pretty much immortal, like that, and especially after spoiler, Steve Trevor dies in the first film.
mhm.
Um, I thought they did a good job, or yeah, overall, like it made sense, like what they were trying to portray as far as like her lonely and like I guess like forcibly independent life.
Yeah,
And like you can tell she really like yearns for some kind of connection. But even then, too, when it came to that, unfortunately, they could have trimmed that down a
they
bit.
could. Yeah, they could have
Like I
trimmed a
said,
lot of the
like this
stuff
one of the
down.
things. Like this is one of the things that again, like I liked what they did overall. What they tried to do is just like again how they did it and how long it took for them to do it. That's where it kind of dragged.
Yeah,
It really did drag, and it just didn't hit as hard. And going to back to that dynamic with Steve Trevor, um, Chris Pine again, he's fine, but he's not given much to do. I felt like there was a certain charm that he had in the first film, not just with him, but really his character
yeah. I think.
that was in the first film that I didn't find in this one.
Yeah, because I don't
And
think
like
they're
that
also
dynamic that
focused.
usually would have gone so well,
Yeah,
I didn't feel it as much.
I can understand. Your perspective and why you feel that way. I didn't feel that way mainly because I knew exactly what he was going to be in the film, and just from a comic book perspective, again, I like the comics. And by the way, if I had to say, oh, is this like the comics? No, it's definitely not. Cheetah is definitely not Cheetah from the comics. I was, that sort of thing. But like, just for how they handled Chris Pine and what he was supposed to represent and that point for Wonder Woman, I liked
Mhm.
a lot. That I liked. I thought they did it really well. I understood he wasn't going to be there for long.
Yeah.
And I felt that because it's like it's hard to accept loss. But another thing is that you're a demigod, you live this long, and you're still on it. Again, there's certain things that I questioned a lot in this film from both, and there's a lot of plot holes. Oh my god, there's a lot of issues and plot holes I have with this. Um, Even some of the action, like, and one of the things that you said is that this is a different take on Wonder Woman from Wonder Woman 1. In Wonder Woman 1
Mhm.
we had the warrior, like, she wanted to go in battle, purge evil, that sort of thing. um and there's many different sides of Wonder Woman, and there's a very regal and very queen uh take on her, and I felt that that's what they were going for with this as well. And I like that change. I know I've seen some people say they didn't like that, it felt too sudden, but at the same time, this is many decades later.
Yeah.
When you're in isolation, sometimes you will have a bit more of a stoicness to you, and I felt that that's what Gal's take and what Patty Jenkins was going for. This was a more regal, proper Diana Prince over the years, but even with that, she still hides a bit of her humanity as well because of the emotions. Again, she's in our world, so all those emotions are just going to be so different compared to when you're on the island by yourself with your mom and everything like that. There's just a different
Mhm.
culture to it, and I think she hasn't really mastered that just yet. Again, I think she's and so with Wonder Woman in this one, I like the regal aspect. There are certain things in action sequences I wasn't a fan of, mainly because it's like, why does this action not feel right or look right? Why
Mhm.
is the editing feeling odd and out of place here? Why is the writing sometimes a bit?
I felt that more with like that. I felt that more with that action sequence in the mall. Like certain
It
things,
was in
like
the
just
mall,
felt
yeah.
like looked a little. Yeah, it just didn't look good. But like again, like it's interesting. Like that was the one action sequence I felt like that with. Like I felt like as far as like the action sequences and even the visuals, visually, I think there's a big improvement on the last film. Because like that last shot in the
Somewhat.
first film,
I think it's
like the CGI or the green screen, whatever, it's way too obvious, and I didn't feel like that for this movie at all. So on
no.
again, on
There's
an action
certain
standpoint, on
scenes
a visual
where,
standpoint,
yeah, there are certain scenes.
there's a huge improvement, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think in some areas it was improved, but then I don't know why this is with DC movies. You can tell when something is CG. You can tell when it's not
Yep.
finished. And knowing that this film was delayed for quite a lengthy time and they didn't finish some of these scenes that I'm watching, that's like, That's obviously green screen. That's obviously green. And it's not the fact that like I'm trying to point it out. I'm not. I'm trying to experience the film for what it is. But like just it takes me out of the experience to a point where it's like I just don't want to watch anymore. And by the way, the whole beginning I loved, but I didn't think it really did enough to the film. This film being in '84, this you could take this out of '84 and it'll still be like I didn't. It didn't really feel like I was in the '80s all the time. Like, they had nods and everything
Hmm.
to the '80s, but like it didn't serve a purpose. And I didn't.
Yeah, like the only nods that they really had to the '80s where, and like the costume and I guess the sets looked good, but
Yeah,
yeah, there wasn't like a lot of this movie that screamed '80s. Like, of course, there's a reference to the president in this movie, and I'm thinking to myself, wait, is that supposed to be Ronald Reagan? It's like it's 1984. That's right smack in the middle of his
yeah,
presidency, and you know what I mean, like, is that supposed to be him? Doesn't look like him too much,
yeah. No,
but
like again, there's just to me this movie I thought was just the small moments, the really all the human moments. Kirsten Wiggs basically becoming Cheetah, and some of those absolutely love.
mhm.
Gal Gadot and Chris Pine and those moments absolutely love. Even Pedro Pascal and his kid absolutely
I
love.
thought that was, I thought that was a good dynamic, and even then, like going just back to the character of Max Lord himself and Pedro Pascal, I thought both of them were terrific, like character wise and performance wise. I thought that was a very very strong villain. He was an awesome
Yeah,
villain
and I see
in
some
my
people
mind.
are trying to make the thing of, oh, he's very Trump-like, and it's like, no, I don't.
It's like here's the thing, like if you told me, like
What?
here's the thing, I feel like if you didn't tell me about that comparison before, I wouldn't have gotten that from
Yeah,
watching this
neither would
movie.
have.
Like now, like all right, you tell me that comparison, like all right, I guess I get it, but at the same time, like how many businessmen out there have their eyes on the presidency? I mean, come on, do you think he's the only one?
Yeah,
But it's just, I mean, it's really weird. Like that's half their shtick, like saying something about him. But what are they going to do when he's out of public life? Like,
yeah,
what
exactly.
are they going to do?
Again, the small
So,
moments,
like, again, I didn't necessarily.
like, again, I'm still mixed on this. I'm really like 50-50, and I'm still trying to process everything. And it's just like the small moments I loved. Overall, I thought it was a mess. So many plot holes, and I was just like, this, like, what's going? This. It's not like I can't follow along. It's just like, it's just what it wasn't what I thought Patty would do the second time around directing this.
Mhm.
I felt that she could have done much better. And then I found out, I was like, why is the writing so weird in this film? I looked it up. I'm not saying she's a terrible writer. Again, I'm not gonna, but like she was a co-writer as well as Geoff Johns. And as comic nerds, if you know who Geoff Johns is, he's like a big, popular dude in the comics. And I've noticed his writing does not translate well on the big screen. You can see that in Aquaman as well, from purely from the dialogue in Aquaman.
Mhm.
Just from that. And so knowing that he also had a hand in some of the writing on this one, it definitely felt and look it, especially with some of the excruciating exposition scenes. Like, oh my god, it was too much, and it didn't even make a lot of sense because they kept rewriting rules in the middle of the film. Again, like I said, I have a lot of issues with this movie. I did not.
Yeah.
I I, I told myself I love it, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, I don't. I'll.
And like here's the thing, like I just one more point that I want to say before this will deviate us into I guess the spoiler section.
Mhm.
Like as far as like why Chris Pine's character is back in the film, like I remember seeing the trailer, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be so stupid. Like how they bring him back when not gonna make a lot of sense, but like what I noticed at least with that was that how they bring him back like actually ties into a much bigger moral of the story,
Yeah.
which I didn't think I would appreciate as much as I did.
And
So that was a
probably an
nice little
issue a
surprise.
lot of
So
people have as well that I've seen online.
mhm. Yeah. So I mean, if that's an issue online, then I disagree.